Glen, what do you make of some of the pressures here and some of the announcements today?
Very ambitious plan to get to 2% of GDP by the end of this year. So that would be, if you play the end of the fiscal year, federal government goes April to the end of March. So that would be March of 2026. This is going to be a big, big jump in the amount of dollars coming out of the Defense Department to hit that target. Now, some of that is going to be things that we've already planned to buy. Some aircraft, F-35 fighter jets, for example. Also, and we're in the process of acquiring new submarines. You heard Mark Carney talk about sort of the sad state of repair of our current submarine fleet. Only one of 4 of those vessels are currently ready to be called up into a combat situation if required. That's not very good. And there's other problems like that right across the entire Canadian Forces in terms of the level of disrepair of what they like to call kit, basically their equipment, the equipment that the soldiers take into combat, as well as larger things like battleships and airplanes and transport aircraft. So Canada's way behind on all those things. The problem here with Carney's plan is spending that money that quickly is going to be a challenge. This is something that's happened. We've seen in procurement projects in the past. They get bogged down by a lot of details, and especially so because Carney, what he's laying out there, and he says this is all going to be kind of listed or codified in a new defense strategy that he says that the Department of Defense is going to be coming out in the near future, as well as creating this special agency that is going to handle all the procurement for the Canadian Forces. Doing those things is going to take a while, and then actually getting the money out the door to acquire this equipment that they need, that does not happen overnight. So I'm a little skeptical about his ability to meet this. One thing he can do, and he's talked about this, is raise, and talked about this during the election campaign, is raising the salary for Canadian Forces members. That would automatically, instantly increase the amount of money Canada is spending on defense, and could also have the added effect of encouraging more recruitment, because this has been another problem. Canadian Forces have just struggled to get people to sign up for it. So if they could increase the salary, that's one way of doing it. The other thing it looks like they're going to do is move the Coast Guard away from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and make it part of the Department of National Defense, and then include the budget for the Coast Guard somewhere between $2 and $3 billion a year. Include that in our overall defense spending. That's something most other countries do. It's a little unusual that Canada was breaking that off previously. So that will increase, just on paper, the amount of money we're spending without actually getting any new equipment for our Canadian Forces. The other thing, I mean, keep in mind that that 2% target of GDP, that's a ratio between your total defense spending, the dollars that go out the door, and the size of your economy. If Canada's economy falls because of tariffs, and Carney did not say what GDP number he's using to make this optimistic calculation of hitting that target by next spring. If Canada's GDP falls, that will increase our share of GDP spent on defense automatically as well. Again, without really, increasing the number of people we have in the forces, or even increasing the amount we're spending on equipment. So there's kind of ways of, accountancy of getting us further along the track. But keep in mind, we're running around 1.3 to 1.4% of our GDP currently spent on defense. The NATO target that was agreed to by the Harper government and all the other NATO countries back in 2014 was to hit that 2% of GDP target. That's going to be a lot more money out the door from Canada. There's also suggestions, and this is something that Donald Trump has raised, is the possibility of NATO countries now changing their target from 2% of GDP to 5% of GDP. That would be a massive, massive increase for Canada. Almost inconceivable how Canada could do that without having to impose, large tax increases on people in order to pay for that. So Carney not talking about that, really talking about still that existing target of 2%. This is something that's going to be discussed, and you can see why Carney wants to announce this now in advance of the next weekend's G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta. Of course, many NATO member countries will be represented there, including the United States and Donald Trump, who wants to see all those countries jack up their spending as quickly as possible. And then at the end of the month, there is also the annual summit of leaders of NATO nations that's scheduled for The Hague and in Brussels, I think, where NATO's headquarters is, on the 24th and 25th of June. Carney will be attending that. So he can go there saying, hey, listen, we're taking steps. We're moving this along. We're going to get to that target a lot faster. Keep in mind, Melanie, Justin Trudeau's target for hitting the 2% of GDP was 2032. Carney says, and we'll see if he can actually do this, he says he will do that next year, 5 years faster than Trudeau had laid out.